Guys, it's your favorite federal informant. Yeah, I know I'm supposed to be on vacation, but I had to pop in for this one. I had to because something is going down and people have questions. So let's talk about it. If you haven't heard already, Diddy just made a bold move. He told both the defense and the prosecution that he wants them to turn in similar cases to his. And by similar, he means cases where someone was convicted of one or two counts under the Mann Act with no prior criminal record. That's what he's aiming to align himself with. Now, of course, the Diddy cheerleaders, his little online goon squad, are out here screaming, "Ooh, Diddy about to walk. He ain't even doing jail time." To which I say, stop. Just stop. Let's bring it back to reality. Yes, Diddy beat the RICO charges. That happened. And yeah, that was a massive blow, not just to victims, but to anyone who stands against abuse and manipulation. But let's not pretend like the story ends there. There's so much more going on. And today we're staying focused on this Mann Act situation. The jury may have overlooked what happened with Jane and Cassie, basically saying, well, you were their man. So I guess that gives you some kind of pass. But what didn't get overlooked, those two federal sex crime convictions under the Mann Act. And let me tell you, those are major, heavy-hitting federal charges. So I did what I do. I got with my legal sources, took notes, and dug into it. Here's the deal. The judge is asking for comparable case law, sentencing stats from similar Mann Act convictions. That request in itself, not unusual, but it's never neutral. When a judge asks for this, it usually means one of two things. One, the judge is exploring ways to justify a lighter sentence, or maybe even release, especially if they're looking at parole, probation, or sentencing flexibility. Or two, the judge is building a case for why Diddy should not be let off lightly. By comparing him to others, they can argue that showing him leniency would be inconsistent, even unjust. Now, when we zoom in on Diddy's case, it starts getting real tricky because this ain't some neutral courtroom move. The judge has already denied bail repeatedly and straight up called Diddy violent. In open court, he didn't hold back. He said Diddy's so-called community ties actually made him more dangerous, not less. That's not the tone of a judge looking to hand out second chances. And let's not forget, multiple victims have submitted letters, powerful, painful letters, saying Diddy is a threat, that he used violence as control, that he wields power like a weapon. The judge knows that. The court has that. And don't forget, judges hate being made to look like fools. If Diddy walks and then turns around and does something shady again, and let's be honest, I believe he will, that's gonna land right back on this judge's reputation. So yeah, the jury's verdict shook up, but the judge's own words in court, denying bail, calling out the threat, that tells you something. You put two and two together. Does this really sound like a judge looking to cut Diddy a break? Letting him walk with time served, that would be a break, a huge one. So what's the real purpose of asking for comparable Mann Act sentences? Well, I reached out to my people, and here's what they said. There are three main reasons a judge might do this. One, for judicial cover, meaning the judge might personally feel that parole or probation is risky,
and no longer
but
has
still
a
wants to
voice who
appear
will pursue
objective.
justice
By
for her
requesting case
accusation.
comparisons from both sides,
As of
they
the
protect
taken against
themselves from
Diddy,
future
no
accusations of
expansion of the
bias.
investigation,
See, I
no
asked
isolation
everyone.
orders,
I did my
no
homework.
equipment
Two,
access,
the judge is already
no
anticipating
suspension of
appeal.
attorney
If Diddy's
communication.
team tries to appeal whatever sentence comes down, the judge can respond, I reviewed sentences in comparable cases. This one falls squarely within that range. Boom, legal shield up. And three, the judge is testing sentencing boundaries. Like, how far can I go without getting reversed by a higher court? They could technically be weighing probation, technically. But unless Diddy's lawyers bring extraordinary mitigating evidence to the table, the judge is almost certainly leaning toward prison time. And speaking of mitigation, let's talk about Diddy's rebranding campaign. Remember what I told y'all? His team is trying to silence content creators. The thinking is, if they shut us up by July, August, September, they can try to reinvent him in October. Cue the Mother Teresa makeover. Suddenly he's a new man, and people are supposed to forget what he did. But here's the kicker. The judge has access to evidence the jury never saw. Witness statements, sealed affidavits, behind-the-scenes files, and all of that is going into his decision, not just what played out in front of 12 jurors. So I asked again, do I really think there's any actual risk of Diddy walking with just parole? At first I said no, but I had to take it to people who actually practice law. And what they told me, Tissa, the chances are super low. And I was like, hold on, you guys also said the RICO charges were airtight. And look what happened. But here's the legal breakdown. The Mann Act is no joke. It's a serious federal charge. Sure, sometimes it's used strategically in hybrid civil cases. But when it's tied to violence and patterns of abuse, the courts do not play around. Judge Aaron himself said it. Not just that Diddy was violent, but that there was a pattern of violence. That's huge. That's not someone lashing out once. That's someone with a history, and judges don't ignore that. Public pressure matters too. The visibility of this case is sky high. The Department of Justice knows this is a credibility test. Maureen Comey warned about it before she was unceremoniously fired. She said this kind of decision would have a chilling effect on victims across the country. So if the judge already denied bail, labeled Diddy a threat, pointed to a violent pattern, and then just turned around and let him walk free, it would make him look wildly inconsistent, unless something new and explosive came to light. Now here's my personal take. I think the judge is being thorough. They're checking all the angles, looking to see if there's any legal wiggle room. But based on what they've already said in court, this judge sees Diddy as dangerous, period. So why the case comparisons? Not because they're softening, but because they want to back up the sentence they've already decided on. That's not leniency, that's insurance. And if you need more proof that this isn't leaning toward parole, just look at the language the judge used. He called Diddy a batterer. That's not just dramatic flair, that's legal language. It implies patterned behavior, not one bad night, not one misstep. That word, it means the judge considers the allegations credible, possibly even established facts for sentencing. That completely destroys any claim from Diddy's team that this was some isolated or exaggerated incident. Judges don't just throw the word batterer around. When they say it in open court, they want it on the record, for future sentencing, for appeals, for probation hearings, all of it. And then the judge hit him with this. Your client admitted he is violent and tried to preemptively enter a batterer program. You know what that means? That's damage control. That's not repentance. That's not transformation. That's a calculated move from someone who knew trouble was coming and tried to game the system. And if the judge believes that admission was real, not just a PR move, that is a legal green light to hand out custodial time, not community supervision. Translation: jail. And it didn't stop there. The judge went even further, saying Diddy's violence comes suddenly, quickly, and without warning. That right there, that's a judicial finding of dangerous. That phrasing isn't casual. It means the court sees him as unpredictable,
present,
volatile,
and no longer
completely
has
out
a
of
voice
control
who
when
will
it comes
pursue
to violent
justice for her
behavior.
accusation.
Judges use that kind of language
As of the
to
taken
justify
against Diddy,
detention, bail
no
denial,
expansion of the
harsh
investigation,
sentence. It also
no
implies
isolation
that even if
orders,
Diddy seems
no
calm
equipment
now, he
access,
could explode
no
again at any
suspension of
moment,
attorney
and that's a
communication.
direct argument against probation. So let me ask you this. Does any of that sound like a judge who's about to say, you know what, time served, go home? Please, be serious. And while we're at it, let's talk about the Diddy goons. What exactly are they going to do when sentencing day comes? Light candles, stand outside the courthouse with a boombox like it's Say Anything, holding a vigil for their favorite predator? Let's be real. Based on the judge's words, tone, and legal record building, this is not someone trying to find an off-ramp for Diddy. If anything, they're laying down a fortress of legal justification. They're building a sentencing record that says, even if this man has money, power, and influence, he is violent, manipulative, and a danger to the public. And they're not playing along with this PR redemption arc. They see right through it. The preemptive batterers program. That didn't fool anyone. It was a setup, a calculated move, not a confession born of guilt, but a defense move born of fear. And that's what makes parole almost impossible. Because if the judge does grant it, and Diddy reoffends, or even contacts a victim, the court gets dry headlines. Outrage, victims re-traumatized. No judge wants that blood on their gavel. This isn't mercy. This is a message. You don't get to buy your way out. Not here. So unless something drastic happens, like new exonerating evidence, or a full public shift, Diddy is not walking out on parole. At best, he'll be monitored under the tightest conditions imaginable. But more likely, he's doing real time. You're watching the legal system lay the bricks, slowly but surely, for a multi-year custodial sentence. This isn't just about punishment. It's about precedent. It's about telling every other high-powered abuser out there, you're not untouchable anymore. And look, I'll admit, anything can happen. But do I think this judge went through all this trouble, laid out all this language, read him to filth in open court, just to let him back into the community? No, I don't. Will Diddy reoffend? Honestly, I think he will. But who knows? Maybe Mark Agnifillo's warm embrace has inspired him to turn over a new leaf. Maybe love can change a man, but I doubt it. Anyway, you guys let me know what you think in the comments. This one's still unfolding, and you know I'll be right here when the next twist hits. Talk to y'all later.